The NBA trade deadline is just hours away, and we've already seen some movement as early as this weekend. Matt, I have a very simple question for you. Who do you want to see make a move before Thursday's trade deadline?
I mean, the number one group that I want to see make a move is the 76ers. And the biggest part of that is because although Daryl Morey seems to believe differently, I don't think they will ever get a full return on Ben Simmons based on what they think is worthy. And if that is the case, if you can't get a James Harden or something like that in the offseason, I think with the way that Embiid is playing, with the way the 76ers are looking, and with how tight the Eastern Conference is right now as far as playoff contention goes, it makes sense to try and get Simmons shipped out of Philly, get the whole saga over with, and bring in some pieces that maybe not a true number 2 star, but pieces that can help Embiid and allow the 76ers to make it through not just the second round, but win the Eastern Conference and get to a finals appearance. Just because Embiid is playing at an all-time great level, might be the best we've ever seen him play. And even if you're not going to get a full, James Harden in return, if you can get C.J. McCollum, maybe a Bradley Beal, we even talked about like Buddy Hield or De'Aaron Fox. If you can add some pieces that upgrade the team and allow Embiid to continue doing what he's doing and thrive in Philly, it is. I think it's imperative that they do that.
That's a big if, and I get it. Obviously, you mentioned it. Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind right now. Certainly a top 5 player, arguably the best big man in the NBA, but you have to think Daryl Morey is playing the long game, obviously. The last thing he wants to do is make a lateral move or take a step backwards. I mean, Joel Embiid is what he is at this point. This is, like I mentioned, an MVP caliber player, a top 5 player. The Sixers are going to be winning games, whether Ben Simmons is on the court or not. If you have the idea, and clearly Daryl Morey does, that you can possibly get James Harden to Philadelphia, whether it be before the deadline or this offseason or sometime next season, that's probably what you have to hold close to your vest. You have to keep Ben Simmons. If you believe James Harden, who has been talked about as a top 5 player in the NBA, NBA top 75, like the logo is behind us, if you can get a player like that on your roster, you kind of got to, keep it close to your vest, keep your cards, close to you and see what you can do down the line. But everybody wants to see the end of this saga, clearly. But there's going to be decisions to be made, and I don't think Daryl Morey is in a rush to make those decisions. But in terms of something I want to see done before the deadline, I would love to see the Dallas Mavericks make a move. They are hooping. Luka Doncic is, again, like Embiid, playing out of his mind, playing like an MVP caliber player. And even this is kind of a down season for Luka, relative to what we've seen in the past. But I watched the Dallas Mavericks, and really I watched Luka Doncic pick up his 5th foul with 10 minutes left in the third quarter of a game on Sunday against the Atlanta Hawks. So that means the Mavericks are playing without their best player for the majority of that second half. Very large stints in that first half. They were able to still beat the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, the Atlanta Hawks are struggling a bit at this point, but this is still a very talented team. That showed me a lot. Again, the Mavs still have a top 5 defense in the NBA this season. I think a move, particularly for John Collins, makes a lot of sense. And I think with that move, it would propel the Dallas Mavericks into the same tier as the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, if you will. I said a couple weeks ago on Who Are They? Go check those out on TikTok and Twitter. I think this is the season, this is the year that the Dallas Mavericks break through, win a playoff series after falling in the first round in the last 2 seasons to the Clippers. Adding John Collins to that roster as a pick and roll player with Luka Doncic. And again, how I like to think about basketball.
Absolutely.
Those closing 5s, Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., John Collins, and Kristaps Porzingis. That is a very viable starting 5 that, I would really like just about against anybody in the Western Conference. What do you make of that? What do you think about the Mavs' chances? I mean, what would Collins do for their prospects?
I think Collins gives them that third tier, third star that they're kind of looking for. Right. Collins has been kind of unhappy on and off in Atlanta, but he's been so vital to what Atlanta has been able to do. And I'll say it this way. Luka by himself can push you 7 games in the first round. Yes. If you add Kristaps to that, then they get past the first round. You add John Collins to that, I think they can get past the second round
and it's all timing.
And reach that tier.
And it's all timing. Again, Luka is what he is, but Jason Kidd is now in his first year. He is quietly, nobody's really talking about
No,
it,
they're
but
not.
Jason Kidd is doing a hell of a job in
And
Dallas.
I liked how you pointed out the defense, because that was
Yes.
one of the biggest issues
Yes.
too, is that Dallas has almost always been mostly offense.
Right.
And if you bring in John Collins, then you have Kristaps and Collins protecting your paint, getting
Yes.
those boards, and Collins is great at that.
100%.
And so I think that, along with his outside shot, which nobody talks about a lot,
Yeah.
it's going to be fun. And I mean, if he enjoyed playing with Trey and Trey was able to get him the ball, Luka is going to do it just as well.
No doubt about it. And obviously, John Collins signed a 5-year, $125 million extension in the offseason. So, a deal for him wouldn't come cheap. I would assume, I would think something around the deal coming from the Mavericks would involve maybe a Maxi Kleber, maybe a Dwight Powell, maybe even a Reggie Bullock, or a Dorian Finney-Smith. Not all 4 of those guys, maybe 2 or 3 of those guys, and a pick or 2 would perhaps get it done. But John Collins has been linked to Dallas since last season.
Yep.
As recent as this week. He's obviously it's been very wide reported that John Collins is unhappy in Atlanta. So I think
Cuban's going to
works.
make a go for it.
Yeah, and if there's anybody in the NBA who's going, put all the cards into the middle of the table and go for it, that'd be Mark Cuban. And I think the perfect time to do it is now. And I think the perfect player to go after is John Collins, because again, I think the Mavs at this point, the West is pretty wide open.
Yep.
Obviously, we all love the Warriors.
Yep.
We love the Grizzlies. We love the Suns, obviously, as well as the reigning Western champions. And we can't count out the Lakers. But again, if the Mavs sitting at the 5 spot right now in the Western Conference, if they can add another impact player like John Collins, watch out. But that's going to do it for us. For Scott Proctor and my guy Matt Morris, a.k.a. Big Red. We'll catch you next time.